Hello, my Teaserking family. How's everybody today? We'll do a little of everything. So we'll look at pro football week 7, and we'll look at a little bit of economics, and then a little bit of college ball for next week. So we'll look at some games. So in review, we've kind of did this yesterday, but we'll review it again. So New Orleans, Atlanta. Atlanta, 1.5. Wins 42-34. Actually, 3.5 when I bet it. Went down to 1.5. They win 42-34. So all of a sudden, this is what happens. What we perceive to be what's supposed to happen versus what really happens, and then we try to understand what happened. So Arizona hasn't scored, and now they put up 42 on New Orleans, 42-34. I win with New Orleans in 9.5 because I bet it early. That's why the timing of the bet is very critical. And then you're trying to say, well, what's going on? Why is Arizona scoring 42 points? And a little bit of they got the receiver back, and little of it was they played New Orleans, who has a pretty weak defense. So that's why we mark the over and under defenses. So we want to bet against over defenses most of the time because they're weaker and you can drive on them, and you got a better chance of winning against a weak defense on a good defense unless you bet the game under. So that's our whole theory, right? There's your unders, there's your overs. You're basing it on defense, but you've got to understand the matchup of the defense, which I'll get to in a little bit. So Arizona does their thing. They give up 34 to New Orleans, and it ends up 42-34. Dalton throws a bunch of interceptions. So, New Orleans can score, and they give up. So they're a good over team. So against another good over team, you tend to bet the game over. The over-under was only 44. So this is shocking. Arizona scores 42 points. All right, so that's the first thing. Then you ask why. Well, DeAndre Hopkins came back. Is he really worth 42 points when they're scoring? They played Seattle to a 19-9. See, that's the problem, right? Against Seattle, 2 over teams, you bet it over 19-9. So now you're confused. You're going, well, is Arizona this good team or not? And then they go 42-34. And Kansas City did the same thing this week against Buffalo. They don't score. And then here against Frisco, who's got a better defense than Buffalo by a long shot, doesn't, they light it up. And they did the same thing with Tampa Bay. So you're really confused, which is the NFL. And I think what I'm getting to at the next level is analyzing these teams with, let's say, running quarterbacks versus not running quarterbacks. So DeMarco Murray, maybe Lamar Jackson, Fields last night. These guys are, Murray's a little bit better, but Jackson and Fields are crap quarterbacks. They can't throw. So that's what you try to, you got to, and the same thing with Philadelphia, Hurts, you just try to break it down into these guys, throw the ball. So, or run the ball. So what type of team did that? I used to do that with the good quarterbacks. So if you played Drew Brees and you played Brady, because they're both in the same division, and then you played, Rodgers, there was teams that would beat all 3 of them. I don't remember who it was. And so when they got them, when they got them, you knew they could beat them, they could play them, and then other teams couldn't handle the Rodgers, the Brady, the Breeze. So that's what I need to focus on. So Green Bay, Washington. Green Bay still sucks. They have terrible receivers and offensive line problems. They lose to Washington. What does Washington do? They switch quarterbacks. Wentz gets hurt, they go to Heineke. Now, why didn't they just go to Heineke in the beginning? We all know he's the better quarterback. This is the problem with half the coaches are idiots and don't even know who to play or are told by the owner, look, we paid all this money for this guy. You're going to play him. We don't know what's going on. I can't believe the coaches are this stupid. So let's assume the owner's telling him to play Wentz. He gets hurt, and then they put in the guy they want. So Washington's a whole different team with Heineke, much better. And you can see it. The defense plays better when they know they got a Brady or a Rodgers, or if they get a better quarterback and they know they can win, they play better. When there's no hope of winning, they don't play. So Washington wins. Not a big surprise. I have the game under. It goes under 47.5, 48. It's a 44, 23, 21. Just because Green Bay's really not scoring, decent defense. Washington wasn't scoring at all. So now they put up a 23 here. So again, they made the change. They're more competitive. Atlanta, Cincinnati, I got exactly what I thought. It was a very strong overplay. Over 47 was over 41, and it got there at halftime was 42. So I love overs that are over at halftime, but Cincinnati's really lighting it up. They're really scoring. I'd say look at their last 4 weeks. Everything in the 20s. Here's a 35. Atlanta's got a real – this is what I was expecting when Tampa played them and when San Francisco played them. Tampa, I thought, would win 35-17, wins 21-15. San Francisco, I'm shocked, gave up so many points to them last week. This was more like Joe Burrow. This is why we bet Joe Burrow. This is why I don't bet on the running quarterbacks, because this is what you get with a Joe Burrow type quarterback or Mahomes. You get 35 points, and then Atlanta got their 17. So they scored a little for us, and they're over. This is the first time Atlanta didn't cover in a teaser, but I'm not going to – it was more prudent to play the game over than try to take Atlanta as a dog against Joe Burrow. So you don't want to start betting too much against Joe Burrow. Then we got Cleveland, Baltimore 23-20. Both teams are over teams. I play over 46 down to 40. It was like 23 or 30 at half. I knew I needed in the 20s, and that's what I got. But I think half was like 13 or 16 to 10. So I was pretty much needed a touchdown each in the second half, and I barely got it, but I got 43. I'm surprised Cleveland only got 20, and I'm just as surprised I'm surprised this isn't a higher scoring game. And this is the big difference between pros and college. In college, this would have been a much higher. This would have been a 40-35 game. Both offenses are pretty explosive, and yet 23-20. Dallas, Detroit. I was going to lock it if Cooper Rush played, but with Prescott, I just played Dallas -1. I didn't lock it. Easy win, 20. Well, it wasn't easy. It was 10-6 late. And then they scored near the end, and then they strip sacked Goff and scored real late on that with that touchdown. So it was really like 17-6. So don't give, Dallas got 24, but Prescott looked really weak. I don't know if he had any turnovers, but Dallas is an under team with that. They got a great defense. And under certainly the play, especially at 47-48. See, Dallas will shut down Detroit, a good offense. A good defense will shut a good offense down, and that's been my point. That's really how you play it, right? A good offense doesn't beat a good defense. A good defense wins. That's why we're looking for good defenses to bet on, because that always comes, right? No matter what Prescott did, the defense was there, Detroit only gave up 6. Now, what's interesting about Detroit in the last 2 weeks, they went from a 35-35 team, points scored, points against, to I think they're down to like 22-35. So they went from an over team to a W team because they still give up in the 30s and they only score now in the low 20s. So all of a sudden in 2 games, which is this will happen up till another week or two. Then the shutout really won't. Maybe I'll move it a point or two. So as we get more games in, so right now we've got 7 games, and this is 6 for Detroit. So you can still get it skewed on. Sorry about that. You get it skewed by a shutout or a 50-point game, like Buffalo. I think skewed because they've had the 2 blowouts, and then they lost at Miami and a bad game against Baltimore. Even against Kansas City, didn't score a lot. So that's what you're looking at. There's Dallas's defense will shut anybody down. 10. That's why I was surprised in the Philly game that it was so high scoring. I would have thought it would have been 10-7. But that's where the turnovers come in and turn an under into an over. But it stayed under for us. Carolina, Tampa. What can you say? Carolina is terrible, and Tampa, I don't know what's going on with them. I don't think it's Brady and the divorce. He's got to have other women on the side. He's Tom Brady, so I don't think that really matters. I don't think it's Brady. I think the receivers are dropping balls. I think he's got new receivers that are not very good. He's got a banged-up offensive line. They don't run the ball. Defensively, they're okay. They're still an under defense, but they're just not scoring. Against Atlanta, must win 21. They put up 31 on Kansas City. So that was okay. And then they put up 21 against Atlanta when they had to win, although Atlanta, you could see, is not that strong defensively. And that's all they got. They got 21, and then they didn't score in the second half or got got 1 touchdown in the second half. So here, a 3 against Carolina is ridiculous. Frisco put up 37 against them. Their defense is supposed to be really good. I held them to 21. It's P.J. Walker you held to 21. So I'm not sure that's a real good thing. Where's my thing? Okay. So what's wrong with Tampa? A lot of it, I think, is the coaching. The play calling, it's atrocious. They're not running enough. And the receivers are just not in sync. That's why you shouldn't call some plays that you normally called when you had your receivers and you had Gronk. Shouldn't be called because these receivers can't do it. So not really good receivers. Let me get a little more. So that's what you have. So Tampa's just a lousy team right now. So I got them next week. Right now, I have them as an under team. They don't score fairly good defense, so their numbers are under. And we're going to talk about the numbers in a minute. So was it surprising? The only surprise was they only scored 3 points. I'm not surprised they lost. I'm not surprised they gave up 21. I'm surprised they only scored 3. Too much is made about McCaffrey trade or the quarterback being out. This is the NFL. P.J. Walker came in, not a problem. Chuba Hubbard came in from Oak State, not a problem. He was a 2,000-yard runner in college, probably better than McCaffrey. So the fact you lose, say everybody focuses on that, and the line moves to 13 when it's not really, how much better is Mayfield than P.J. Walker? Probably not at all. Just he went to Oklahoma and P.J. Walker went to Temple. But outside of that, they're both pro quarterbacks, and there's really not much of a difference, if any. So not really surprised. Indy, Tennessee. This Tennessee won like 5 out of 6. But they were all close. This is another close game, 19-10. Indy throws a pick 6. Again, Ryan with difficulty. On a real stupid play. I don't understand these plays. It's just short out. The risk and reward is not worth it. You're risking, your reward is a 3-yard pass, and you're risking a pick 6. And he got pressured on the play. Never should have thrown it. What are you doing, man? What are you calling that play for? To get 2 yards, but then you give up a pick. It's going to be a pick six if it's picked. The quarterback has to read where the safety is and didn't read them, and that's another part of the problem. So I don't like those plays. And that was really the game, because really without that, it's a 12-10 game, which is kind of what I expected. They're both under teams. Tennessee's not even – Tennessee's is a W. Let's see if they got better this week. Yeah, now they're an under. So they went from W to – so they went from -10 to like -3. So many under teams right now. The Giants in Jacksonville, I had the Giants favorite. How they were the dog made no sense. And they beat Jacksonville 23-17. The Giants are playing good defense, and they're running the ball, which is what you need to win. Despite having Daniel Jones, who's absolutely horrible, it doesn't matter. He actually runs. He's actually another running back, another one of these, I can't throw the ball, so I'm going to run it. And they're getting away with winning without a quarterback, so it's going to catch up with them. I think the Philly game it'll catch up with him. When you play the better teams and you need to use your receivers, he's not going to show up. Now, granted, a lot of the receivers are injured, so I give no credit to the defensive coordinators that they're playing against, who should be stacking the line against the run and not spying. I hate the spying. You don't spy a quarterback. You blitz him. Your spy should be right in on top of him. I mean, I'm watching the spy against Murray. I'm watching him against Hurts, and they can't even catch him. They're standing there, and these guys are running, and they'll put a move on, and the spy is useless. So don't waste time with the spy. Blitz the spy. I don't know why they don't blitz more these quarterbacks who can't read anything. It's just really idiot defensive coordinators. Oakland and Houston. Oakland 38-20. They're an over team, so they scored their 38. That's what you expect from Karen and Adams. Houston, kind of a weak team. They're kind of an under team, but I question it. They gave up a lot of 20s, and I don't know what I'm calling 20s. I got to adjust my under things, because in college, if you give up 30 or an over, and if you give up like 21, 22 and less, you're an under team. The pros, the whole league's between 20 and 25. So I don't even know what to call these teams. But they're so inconsistent, you don't know what you get from it. So Oakland 38-20. I picked Oakland. I didn't play them. So in other words, I think Oakland will win -1, but I don't like them. Houston, I don't know what you get from Houston. So Houston's the enigma. You think they're an under team, and yet they put up 38 on them. So again, they play Jacksonville with 13-6. That's what confuses you, right? They beat Jacksonville 13-6. You think Lawrence is starting to be a quarterback, and then he disappears. He's like Daniel Jones. He wants to run the ball, and you see what happens, right? More than likely, when you've got a running quarterback who doesn't know how to throw, that's what you get. KC and the Niners. I'm wondering if my chat's working. Oh, that's not good. Okay. Well, I'm hoping my chat's working. I'm not sure. So if I don't answer your chat, I normally see something on the right. I don't see anything. So we'll see. So again, Houston, they're very inconsistent. They really, I think see, this is the thing. I think they have a weak defense against certain, like against the Lawrence, they're okay, but against a good quarterback. They're not. And that's, again, so you need to, there's almost like two things going on here. There's the pocket passers, the Carrs, the Mahomes, the Kirk Cousins, and then there's these Daniel Jones and Trevor Lawrence and Kyler Murray and all these guys who are more running quarterbacks. And then you're like, so I think you almost have to break out each team by who they're playing. Which team are you playing? And then how do they play against those teams? I'll get to that in a minute. The Jets 16-9 over Denver. Russell Wilson wasn't playing. This game was the first lock. The first lock was going to be Dallas with Cooper Rush. And then when they went to Prescott, I couldn't trust it. So then this was the second lock, was the Jets. At the time, they were getting 3. I locked them getting 9. I didn't know if Russell Wilson was playing or not. I didn't care. Even with Russell Wilson, I thought they were a live dog. And then they end up being a 1 or 2 point favorite. But once the lock's in, and they still win 16-9, a good under game, as Denver doesn't score and it has a good defense. And so the Jets have they have a good defense. So that wins. The Jets are pretty good, apparently. All right. KC and the Niners. This game surprised me a little because the Niners have a really good defense. And Bosa was playing, and KC had trouble with Buffalo. So KC goes off 44-23. Revenge for the Super Bowl? Not at all. Which I didn't think. I didn't even play this game. I didn't know what to do with it. I certainly wasn't going to trust Frisco. They just got beat by Atlanta. It's a strange team. They got a good defense, but Garoppolo sucks. And again, this is where it comes out in the bigger games. This is where the Garoppolos and the Mills and the Lawrences and the Daniel Jones, this is where they disappear against the better teams. That's the problem, Art Jackson. So KC kills them 44-23. So again, now, okay, KC looks like they're rolling. And then you'll get them at Indy and they lose, and home against Buffalo and they lose, and you're like scratching your head with this team. So I don't know what to expect from them. Although now they're hot. Who do they got next week? Or they're off. They're off next week. Okay, just when they're rolling, they get the bye. Seattle, San Diego, lock number 2. Take Seattle as the dog. We know all the trends. Seattle, an outstanding road dog. And San Diego, a terrible home favorite, bet against team, and they get killed. Seattle, and I love this. I was getting 13 because I bet it on Monday or Tuesday when it was like 6.5, 7. And they go up 14-0. You're up 27-0 in the first quarter. The game's over in the pros, and they win 37-23. Walker, the kid from Michigan State, looked very good, and and they won easy, and they're the dog, so that's what you love. Miami, Pitt again, Tagliabue. So these quarterbacks that came back, Prescott looked very weak. Tagliabue looked very weak. They win 16-10 against Pitt. Pitt plays a good under. Pickett doesn't know what he's doing. He's lost. He shouldn't be playing. But the problem is, why would you sign Trubisky? You could have had Zappy, right? And you signed Trubisky, and you drafted Pickett, right? So you drafted Pickett. You bring in Trubisky to give him some knowledge, but Trubisky's terrible. Pickett's not. I don't think he'll ever be ready. He's not very good. So I don't know where they're getting these Trubiskys and these Picketts that they think are any good. They don't know what they're looking for. That's the problem, right? They don't know what they're looking for. I know what they're looking for, but I'm not the GM. If I was, my quarterback would be either Rising or Van Dyke. I guarantee it. Or one of these other spectacular, Hooker or Sanders from Oak State, any of these guys. So Miami wins 16-10, a low-scoring game. Then we come to last night, lock number 3, New England -1.5. Anticipating it's Zappy. As soon as I hear Jones, what could I do? I've already posted it and I've already bet it, and I knew it was big trouble. Jones sucks. When you looked at his numbers, he's 4 touchdowns and 7 picks. I don't want to bet on that. And then you look further, and Chicago's got an under defense. So I don't want to bet into an under defense as a lock. I thought Zappy could beat him, but not that. Then my last thought was, well, New England's got the defense. They'll shut them down. But now here's where I've been driving. Well, who did New England lose to? Baltimore. Baltimore beat them pretty good with Lamar Jackson running around. Well, Fields isn't normally a runner, but they were running single wing. Fields was running the ball all over the place like he was, Walter Payton, which we hadn't seen. They played Washington into a 12-7 game. So you're not expecting the Bears to put up 33. However, you were expecting Zappy to start. Now, I didn't understand this. You totally fucked up the chemistry. First quarter, he does nothing, and then he throws this really weak interception, Jones. Zappy comes in, boom, 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 2 touchdowns. They're winning 14-10, and they look like good. But their defense, Belichick, the genius, bullshit, doesn't know to blitz Fields. He doesn't blitz him. He lets Fields, he's a 3-man rush, and we're going to drop 8 in coverage, which doesn't work against Fields because you can't read a defense anyway. If you give time, he's going to run, and then he throws a little bit. This was like Ohio State playing Indiana. I mean, this was where's the pressure? Where's the defense? Why aren't you blitzing? Big mistake by him. Now, there was some injuries in the secondary. Maybe he didn't want to blitz because of that, but Fields can't hit the broadside of a barn anyway. That's not going to be a problem. The other problem is these injuries. You have no idea if anybody's good, who's injured, if it's not like the starting quarterback or a stud receiver or or running back. I can't tell you anybody on the defense. So very few people, if they're injured, do I even know or care if they're the starter or not? Because it's all just so bad. The league's so bad right now. So for Chicago to score 33 on New England, absolutely shocking when they lost 12-7 to Washington. It's the same team. How does New England? Now, New England gets 14 and then stops, and their defense was absolutely terrible. So the problem, I think, here, this game should never have been bet like this. Now, I probably would have bet the under, but I wouldn't have locked it. So this game, well, had I known Zappy, if Zappy was the starter, the lock makes sense. Once you went to Jones, the lock doesn't make sense. But I've already posted it, so I can't really – what am I supposed to do? Delete it from the site? Maybe I should. I don't know. But if you bought it and you're betting what I'm telling you to bet, how can I then go, oh, wait, well, let's forget it? I mean, maybe you didn't bet it at the time, but that's once I post. And I don't wait till Sunday morning to post. As I said, I've already posted 4 locks for next week in college. So it's just one of those games, and that's where we get to matchup. So New England has a trouble with running quarterbacks. So when they play Jalen Hurts or they play Kyler Murray or they play, Mahomes or Jackson already did something. Not against Tag. Does the Jets quarterback run a little bit? Buffalo, they're going to have problems with Buffalo with Josh Allen running because clearly they don't. They're in over their heads against running quarterbacks. So this is the second one, and both times they get blown out. So again, New England's not that good, and I didn't think they were that good. Just one of those things where you just assume, well, was happy they were looking good. They had just beaten who'd they beat? Yeah, they just killed Cleveland 38-15. So you're expecting a 30 score. They beat Cleveland. They shut out the Lions, doesn't even count. That's like playing the Mid-American Conference. It's like beating Ball State. So against Chicago with a weak offense, And New England, normally with a good defense, you're expecting New England to do that. So it was a very good week, except for the ending, which again cost me a couple of 5-team teasers. That was the closer. This is like the third time, you get San Jose Stated, and so San Jose State cost me three 10-team teasers, and this New England cost me 2 5-team teasers and a regular teaser. So it's frustrating. That's why I talked about the trap yesterday, which says, well, wait, Mac Jones, I don't like it as much. They're laying 8.5. I'm laying 1.5 in a teaser or 2. So you bet about a quarter to a half of your money on the Bears and 8.5. Maybe you got 9, and then you can't lose. You just don't win as much, but then you've insured yourself by, if the Bears do what they did, you win all the Bear money, you lose your New England money, but it covers it. And you could win both. Had New England won 36-33, you would have won both sides. That's the beauty of the trap, is to win both sides of it. But, you should trap as much as possible for exactly this reason. And that's why sometimes, if you play a pro teaser, if you like the Monday night game, I would put the Monday night game in the teaser, because more than likely you can do exactly what should have been done yesterday, which was trap the game, right? You've won the first 4 or 5. This finishes it. Now I can trap. I got till Monday. I can trap the game. Very little risk, and I could win both sides of it. So that's really high-level teasers, is to trap the game. I don't know if my chat's working. So if you're trying to chat me, I'm not seeing anything. It's blank. I don't know why, but maybe I hit something that search. I don't know. Maybe I hit a button that I shouldn't have hit. But if you're trying to chat with me, I can't see it, and I apologize. Maybe what I'll do is make this short and then come back on, and then hopefully we get the chat. So let's look at, lessons learned, basically just figuring out the teams a little bit more, and then getting to I think the next level with this is these running quarterbacks. Who plays well against them and who doesn't? And I think that'll be the next key, because there's about a handful of the Trevor Lawrence, the Lamar Jackson, Daniel Jones on the Giants, Atlanta, Mariota. So here's Mariota, and Cincinnati had no problem with them. So they play Lamar Jackson. They don't have a problem with Lamar Jackson either. So Cincinnati's got it. They know how to defend it. Clearly, New England has no idea how to defend it. Mr. Belichick, the greatest coach of all time, except for he's not. That's what we learned. Let's look at the stats. Play against Arizona was a home favorite winner. Indy is a road dog loser. The Giants is a road dog winner, and bet against Jacksonville as a home favorite winner. Seattle is a road dog winner. Play against San Diego winner, obviously in the same game. That's really all I had in those trends. The teaser teams: Houston, which loses; Atlanta, which loses. This is this year. Cincinnati, Philly, Minnesota, and Buffalo are off. And then Miami won. The bet against teams: LA was off. Bet against New Orleans, you win. Bet against Washington, you lose. Bet against Denver, you win. San Diego, you win. Jacksonville, you win. Atlanta, you win. And Cleveland, you win. The bet against work really well. These are just looking at, these are 80% or more overall in a teaser. Oh, they're They're 14-1 against. I'm going to bet against them. And boom, the only team that won was Washington over Tampa, which really didn't make sense. Houston and Atlanta has been undefeated this year. Really is just kind of a fluke. Maybe it's the schedule or whatever, or teams getting used to Mariota, but Cincinnati put an end to that. Cincinnati's very strong. They're a play team also. So let's look at next week. So I'm going to go to my stat page for 1 minute. I will be back on the video. I'm still here, but I'm just going into the stat page. So what the stat page shows me, it shows me like the team offense and defense and the team offense in yardage. So when I look at it, I do it by offense, I do it by defense, and then I do it by variable where I rank the teams. So looking for a trend, like Buffalo has 449 yards a game, 331 passing. They're the tops. The worst teams are Carolina at 290, and you got Pittsburgh at 312, and you got Chicago. Well, that was 316. I'll have to update it for the Monday night game. But you can see some of them. Now, some of them have gotten better. There was a lot more that were weak, like, Carolina and Houston. Houston only gets 326. And then we got, Tennessee and Dallas. Dallas only gets 316 a game, and Tannehill gets 293. So you got some teams that aren't even getting 300 yards in a game, which is freaking ridiculous. All these rules have changed for the past, but the problem is you got to run the ball. The teams that run the ball win. So with that said, let's go through the offense. So you've got KC 32, Buffalo 29. I'm not going to go through everything. Oakland and Philly at 27, Seattle and Baltimore at 26, New Orleans and Cincy at 25, Detroit, Cleveland, New England at 24. Again, this is an average. And again, like Detroit scored 6 points in the last two games. So they were 35 or now down to 24. New England, where, you don't start Zappe. You can't just put them into the second quarter. You wasted a quarter and a half. I think he came in with like the 9-minute mark. You wasted the whole first quarter not scoring. So now you're playing a 3-quarter game. What the fuck are you thinking? Are you thinking, well, we'll give Jones a chance against a good defense like the Bears? The Bears suck, so we'll easily beat it. You can't do that in the NFL. And Jones sucked. And he sucked before, and he sucks now, and that's my point. I mean, you got Zappe. Just keep going with him. Why would you then? Oh, we'll bring him in the second quarter when Jones looks like shit, which we know Jones looks like shit. That's why you didn't win any games. So it's just mystifying how bad the coaching was. That sounds like a Patricia move. Well, let's start Jones, and we can always go to Zappe, and the Bears won't score. It'll be all right. I don't know what happened in the second half when they got the 14-10 lead. What happened to them? They just disappeared. I think there was a few. One was a tip ball interception. I think Zappe had a couple interceptions, but again, they weren't running the ball. It's the Bears. Bad, just a terrible coach night. But then we get down to, so those are your offensive teams. The 24s up. There's only one in the 30s, 129, and a couple 27s. Then you get down here, and this is what I find fascinating. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 12 teams that aren't scoring 20 points. 12 teams. Tennessee, Dallas, Green Bay, Washington, Tampa Bay, Carolina, Houston, the Rams, Indy, Chicago, Pitt, and Denver are not even getting 20 points a game. Now, Dallas, Green Bay, and Tampa Bay, you're really scratching your head, especially with Brady and Rodgers. You're like, what the hell? Now, who's the best teams? So let's analyze. So then you got Kansas City, Buffalo, Oakland, Philly, Seattle, Baltimore. Well, wait a minute. Okay, KC's got Mahomes. Buffalo's got Allen. Oakland's got Carr and Adams. Philly's got Hurts. Seattle, Geno Smith. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson. New Orleans, there's no Drew Brees there. Cincinnati, they got Joe Burrow. So we're okay. Detroit has Goff, who sucks. Cleveland's got Brissett, who sucks. And New England apparently has Jones too much, who sucks, but Zappy, who's not. So Zappy got him to 24. So it's kind of the quarterback where you got Mahomes, Carr, Hurts, Allen, but then you got Lamar Jackson and you got Geno Smith, and you're like, oh, well, wait, they're no Rodgers and Brady. New Orleans does not have Drew Brees. Now Joe Burrow should be in there. So it's really confusing. Why aren't they scoring? And then you got a bunch of 21s and 22. So the league is very low scoring anyway. Most of it's between, let's say, 23. What do you got? 15. You got 20 teams they're scoring 23 and less. I mean, it's insane. And then you get your high scoring teams are the San Diego's, Atlanta's, Minnesota's, Arizona gets 22. So nothing really makes sense here. Some teams run the ball. The worst running team is Indy at 71, the Rams at 71, and then Tampa at 64. So if you look at the stats, you understand why they're not good. Tampa's only rushing for 64 yards a game. That's a problem. The Rams, 71, that's a problem. 81, Chicago. Well, 81 is not Chicago. 81's Indianapolis, which doesn't, Taylor's been a little hurt. 87 is Cincy. Okay, you got Burrow there. 89 is San Diego, and 98 is Minnesota. So some of these don't make sense. San Diego's got a good running attack, and Minnesota has Cook, so they should be much higher. But the coaches aren't concentrating on that, and you can see how bad the scoring is. So let's go down to the defense. And here's where it really gets screwed up. So when we look at the defense, we've got 17 teams under 21. So fairly good defenses. Buffalo leads at 14. They don't play anybody, although they did play KC. Dallas, yes, and we're betting on them. Denver, yes. Philly, okay. Tampa Bay, good defense. The Giants, that's why they're winning. New England, Cincinnati, that's why they're winning. Frisco, and then Jacksonville, the Jets, Minnesota, Chicago, Indy, Green Bay, the Rams, Tennessee, and Carolina. So it gets confusing. Some of these, you got Buffalo, you got Philly, you got Cincinnati. You can see they're the powerhouse. Right? They're the both, right? They give you the offense and the defense. That's what we're really looking for. But then you look at the bottom, let's see, 24 is what, 62. So you got 9 teams that are over 24. You got Miami, Atlanta, Kansas City, Oakland, Arizona, Cleveland, Seattle, San Diego, New Orleans, and last but not least, Detroit. So these are like the teams you really want to bet against. Now, when you get a Kansas City and an Oakland and maybe an Arizona, then you tend to be looking, let's play the games over. And against Detroit, you just bet against them. Like a Dallas, you just play the under because they're not going to score, but Dallas should have been a lock had Cooper Rush played, because they would have eaten up the defense, and then their defense would have just shut down Detroit as they did. New Orleans plays high-scoring games. San Diego plays pretty high-scoring games. So does Seattle. So does Cleveland. So does Arizona, Oakland, and Kansas City. And now you get the rhyme or reason. These teams score and give up. Those are my over teams. Up top, Now, the Buffalo and the Philly and the Cincinnati are more my A teams. They have good offenses and good defenses. But then you get your under teams that don't score a lot but have great defenses, like a Dallas, a Denver, Giants, San Francisco. Although what happened? See, Jacksonville, the Jets, Minnesota, Chicago, Indy, Green Bay. So that gets us to, but what the fuck happened with Kansas City, San Francisco? They give up 19 a game. They give up 44 to Kansas City. What happened? Why did they give up so much if they got such a good defense? And that's where it gets matchups. Obviously, against the Mahomes or against a Rodgers or against these good quarterbacks, Frisco's not there. Atlanta lit them up. Well, they got 21, but they really scored 28. So that's what you look at. So you see a team like Dallas who gives up 15. They do play under games. A Denver plays under games. Philly, you don't know what to do because they score. So they're like, okay, we'll play Philly. But then Tampa scores 18, gives up 18. I don't know who they are. The Giants 21-19. They play the lower scoring in the 20 games. New England, where was their defense last night against? See, here's what gets confusing. Chicago scores 16 a game and gives up 20, and New England scores 24 and gives up 19. How is Chicago putting up a 35 on them? That's the part that doesn't make sense. It's usually turnovers as it was, and that's bad play calling and coaching because they didn't do that. So then we get into quarterback play, and Josh, this is by yards per game because some teams have played more games. You can't go by yards. The only other measure is touchdowns and interceptions. So the top yards per game is Josh Allen, and the lowest is Teddy Bridgewater, who only played a few. He's played 4 games. Now, when you look at Fields yesterday, so here's the analysis. He scores 4 touchdowns, has 5 picks. So you're thinking he sucks. So you've got some weird, Matt Ryan for Indy, he 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Now you understand why Indy sucks. The quarterback sucks because he's new. He throws too many interceptions, and he threw the pick 6 against Tennessee. Then you go to Winston, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and you go, well, what the hell? Well, let's go to New England, and Mac Jones before yesterday was 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. When I saw that and they named him the starter, I had a bad feeling yesterday. I go, this guy doesn't get touchdowns, throws a lot of picks. And in converse, when you look at, this doesn't include last night's game, Bailey Zappi, 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. So I want to bet Zappi 4-1, and I don't want to bet on Jones. Had I known Jones was the quarterback, I never would have even played New England. But again, you react, and then they throw him in, and then that's why you trap the game to try to get off of it. But that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for Jones against the Bear defense. That's not what I want. I probably wasn't under, but though they said so many turnovers. Carr, 9 touchdowns, 4 picks. Jalen Hurts, 6-2. Kirk Cousins, 9-5. That's a problem. 5 picks, and only 9 touchdowns. Well, who's the best? Well, Mahomes, 20-5. Allen, 17-4. And then you got Joe Burrow, 15-5. Herbert, 12-4. So you can see why they're good teams and why these are good quarterbacks. They get you the touchdowns and really don't throw too many picks on you. Now here, Mahomes is 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, but then you got Kirk Cousins with 9 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So wait a minute, I got 11 more touchdowns with Mahomes, and I got the same interceptions with Cousins. That's why I don't like Cousins. Carson Wentz, 10 touchdowns, 6 picks. I mean, they throw way too many interceptions. This is the problem with the league. Lawrence, 9-4. Garoppolo, 9-4. Kyler Murray. Russell Wilson, 5-3. Kyler Murray, 7-4. The problem is the league became a passing league, but you don't have the quarterbacks for it, and you don't have the offensive coordinators for it, and you don't have the scheme set up to do this. You should run a balanced offense. you should always run a balanced offense. You should never run. Um, you should never run this 5 receivers. I mean, first of all, they can't block it. There's no big advantage. And then I see the secondary is so bad. They're never close to the receiver. The guy, quarterback, sitting back there 3-4 seconds. And then he just throws it, and the wide receiver is wide open, and there's a guy like 5 yards away from him, supposedly covering him. What the hell is that? That's not defense. That's just some guy playing a zone, but he doesn't know how to react to the ball. That's the problem. It's just so many bad defensive players. So you're really looking at the problems with that's why they can't score. And then these fourth downs are just turnovers. I got to see if there's a stat on fourth downs. I'm sure there is, where there's a stat that says, what the hell? There's a stat that says how many times they go for it on fourth down and don't make it and don't make it. It's probably like 10%. And then it's when it is and where it is. Is it the goal line, or is it your own 20, or is it around midfield? You got idiots running fake punts, fake field goals. The game's not that hard. There's not enough points scored. And that's what's hurting this. I think the scoring a lot is these fourth downs. You don't make it. And you basically turn it into an Army-Navy game where the teams, they drive down, they get to the 20, they don't get it on fourth down. It's a fumble. It's a turnover. The other team starts at their 20. So in the meantime, you're not kicking your field goal and scoring your points and getting the momentum or keeping it. And you keep giving it up, and then you're not kicking your field goal, and then the other team. So you're just driven. You didn't score anything. So that's another reason scoring's down. So it's just really, really pathetic. So I tell you what, I'm going to come out and come back in. So hold on. I'm going to end this because I can't see comments, and I really want to see the comments and respond to them. So I'm coming right back, but I'm going to end this stream, and I'll come right back.